A Made by Marzipan production in cooperation with SakuraofAmerica.com presents
I'm gonna make you a world with these two hands today.
10 tips for using brush pens. Today I'm using coloring brush pens to make a set of mini gift cards. I'll demonstrate a few techniques to show you how to get the most out of your coloring brush pens. I'm also offering these mini cards as a free printable, so you can try this at home. I'm using Sakura's Koi Coloring Brush Pens. I'm also using Sakura's Koi Coloring Brush Blender, a pen filled with colorless ink that blends shades together seamlessly. I'll be printing my mini cards on watercolor paper, but white cardstock also works well. Trim the paper to 8.5 by 11 inches to fit in your printer. Before we get started, it's important to point out that depending on your printer's ink, the ink may smear when colored over with the blender pen. You can either avoid coloring directly on the printed areas, or you can use a copier to Xerox the cards. Copier ink won't smear. You can use the coloring brush pens as you would a regular marker. The flexible tip allows you to make fine or bold brush strokes. I'm starting by tracing these letters, using very light pressure to create a thin outline. You can also use these pens to produce a watercolor effect. Outline the center of an image. Messy lines look better when blended than straight ones. Use the coloring brush blender to distribute the color within the shape. When you're ready to move on to a new color, be sure to wipe the nib of the blender pen on a piece of scrap paper, or it may deposit unwanted color. You can also use the blender pen to borrow color from another area. I'm coloring the camera lens black, then using the blender pen to pick up some of the pigment. I'm using this new light gray ink to fill in other areas of the camera. I want these cards to look like they were hand-painted with watercolors, so I'm leaving a few white gaps here and there to reinforce that look. It would be nearly impossible for me to fill in these tiny areas without smearing if I were using an actual paintbrush and watercolors, but it's easy with the brush pens. You can add shading by depositing more colored ink over an area you've already blended. I'm using the broad side of the brush pen to draw a border on this card. Then I'm going over it with the colorless blender to soften the strokes and mimic watercolor paint. Another technique you can try is layering the colors. This adds depth to the image. Choose 2 shades in the same color family and overlap them. Use the blender brush to create a seamless gradient. The particular Koi set that I'm using comes with 24 colors that can be layered and blended to create a variety of shades. The colorless blender pens come separately. I want the sky on this card to have a pale wash, so I'm scribbling on scrap paper with a blue brush pen. I'm using the blender brush to pick up the color and deposit it on my card. If you have a large area to fill, you can use a water brush. Fill the tube with water, then squeeze gently to release a drop. Pick up the color with the brush and blend it on the background. When you're finished coloring, cut out the mini cards on the black lines. Fold in half on the light gray dotted line. These are the perfect size to tape to a cupcake box or to hang on a gift bag. For more information about the products I used, visit sakuraofamerica.com. To print the free cards, visit my website, madebymarzipan.com, and search for Mini Cards.
Try this at home.